I cried 2 times before I started Mokadocs. We don't like the minimum wage. We would like to pay employees what they deserve. There's a lot of failure needed before you can succeed. They gave up. We didn't.
Today we are the headquarters, the main office of the internet SaaS-based contract management platform, Mokadox. We're going to speak with its founder, owner, Rob. Hopefully he'll give us a lot of really insightful wisdom nuggets. So let's dig right into it. And we'll just get into it. And the first question is, if you can describe what is Mokadox for people who don't know, and maybe even tell a bit more about its business model and what is SaaS, software as a service.
Yes, we are a software as a service company, so we provide customers with software, but not really with the software, but with the service of the software over the internet. We founded Mokadox in 2013. As a result of that, we saw that a lot of software in contract management is, highly complex, and we thought we need to find something which helps customers to simplify the thinking of managing their contracts. And we provide them nowadays with a solution over the internet. That's very important for us to use the internet, and the customer can use the internet as well to put in the data and to help and streamline the things they want to achieve when it comes down to managing a contract.
Okay. How did you come up with it? Did you work in this field before and you saw the need?
Yes and no. I didn't know that I saw the need. So there was a need, but I didn't saw it. And I was working for a lot of American-based #1 software vendors. And once in a while, you find out that there was a contract with a customer with maintenance which was not invoiced because the contract was in the file cabinet and nobody really took a notice of that file cabinet. And if you took the contract out and you were reading it, you saw that there was a maintenance fee which was not invoiced, stuff like that. So it was very operational. And I had a conversation with a guy in 2005, 2006, related to licenses and contracts. And in that conversation, I discovered that we all understand that we need to manage those contracts, but it is not. It's in our mind, but we are not focusing on that stuff. We are focusing on the outcome of what we agreed upon. So we don't manage contracts on end dates. We don't file those contracts, or if we file those contracts, it's everywhere. Because we are not focusing on those contracts anymore. Because if you are closing a deal with a customer, the moment the signature is done, the champagne will plop and you will drink and you will have a lot of fun because the deal is done. But it's not true. The deal starts there. And so I was thinking in 2005, 2006, what can we do better? And so I took a long leap to start up Mokadox in 2013, to have a clear vision about how to simplify that process, because every contract might be different, and so you need to have a very intuitive software to manage any kind of contract in any kind of company without a user guide.
Because before you were working, was the field also similar where you had all the time like interactions with contracts? Because what is a bit of your background? What was your background? What did you do before?
Well, that's 2 questions. My background is first finance. So I started my career in finance, in the financial industries. And in 2001, I changed jobs from finance to IT. I started working for a Nasdaq-listed company called Firepond. I switched jobs to a company called Bewise, which was later acquired by the Nasdaq. Changed jobs again, became a CEO of an Enschede-based company. Changed jobs again to Planview, a US privately held company from Austin, Texas. Was responsible for the Benelux, the Nordics, and DACH, Deutschland, Austria, and Switzerland. Changed jobs again to Teleo, the #1 player in e-talent management and e-recruitment, which was acquired for approximately $2 billion to Oracle, and then I founded Mokadox. So I had a lot of knowledge related to US-based companies when it comes down to software and how the market worked. And the latest part which I worked for was Teleo, and Teleo was SaaS-based as well, so a lot of knowledge related to SaaS, which helped me to restructure the thinking of how do I want to set up the company Mokadox as it is today.
Was it like your first entrepreneurial activity, or you were always like that since you were 20 or teens?
No, I cried 2 times before I started Mokadox. The first time was a company which was in the financial industry, was an ASP company, also related to IT, but it was more related to the domain of financial planning. So I built software to automate a financial advisor, like artificial intelligence technology.
In 90s?
I started in 1995. I threw away the first development in 1996. I threw away the second development in 1997. And then we went live in 1998, 1999. The second one I started in 2005, but it was just a project. So it was a little bit fooling around, playing around with stuff. I was working for US-based companies. I was very busy, traveled a lot of over Europe and the US. And in 2008, there was a bankruptcy from the Lehman Brothers in the US. And all the projects where I was working on in my last company where I worked for as an employee were on hold. So I saw, well, this is going to be the end of this job. I had a lot of hire to be fired jobs in those days. And I decided at that point to say, well, I can either hop to the new opportunity, or I can move on with the small project we had. And it's going to be this project of contract management. Okay. So I did that. So I started to focus on that project. That was in 2009, and with a business associate of mine. And in 2011, I ran into a midlife crisis. So I didn't focus anymore on business, but on different parts of my life. And my business associate, ran into a divorce. And those two emotional parts were the recipe for a complete clash between the two of us. So it blew up. And in 2012, I decided to start all over again and to start Mokadox. So I started to make a blueprint, and with that blueprint, I invested in IT, building the software, and founded Mokadox in 2013 in January.
Okay, so the seeds actually started from 2005, the very rough seeds, but the full explosion was 2012.
Yeah, there's a lot of failure needed before you can succeed. This is what we call our living room. So this is a place where you can sit, chill, watch telly, can see Netflix or watch the news, can play some music. Well, just can sit down. We also work here.
As already discussed, you're doing SaaS business, which is very scalable. It's over the internet. And as far as I know, you're expanding to US. What are the reasons? Why specifically US? And why are you even expanding?
Well, that's a lot of questions as well. But yes, SaaS business in the internet is a very good instrument to scale your business. Basically, to really scale your business is what we call, you need to have no labor. So basically the entire buying process or sell process needs to be automated, including the onboarding and the termination of your contract again with your supplier. So everything needs to be automated. And if that's the case, including the support as much as possible, then you can scale up to any kind of country you would like to scale up. Then you have the situation that you run into the cultures of the company, the people who work in different countries have different cultures. And from a Dutch point of view, the best culture close by to the Dutch culture is the English part, so the UK or the US. And for us it's easier to set up a second line of business in an English language, and because there's a huge geographical area which speaks English, than to start up with Finnish with only 5.5 million people, or Luxembourgeois with 350,000 people. So to expand to an English-speaking geographical area is the most logical step we could do. We could also have the ability to expand to Spanish people, Spanish-speaking people, or to Chinese. But as a company, but also as a Dutch people, we speak better English than Chinese or Spanish. So it's more obvious for us to take the step into the English environment. And then the question, why the US and not the UK? We had a study for over a year to better understand how do we need to go to the US from the Netherlands point of view. So we don't want to have an office there, although we have an office already there, but we don't want to have an office there because we want to provide our customers over the internet with the information, so you can provide them from any point of view as long as you have an internet. We did a study amongst those 52 states of the US and decided to start in Georgia. Georgia is a state with almost a little bit more than 10 million inhabitants, which is a little bit similar to the Netherlands. So to say we want to roll up the US, that's too big. That's a too big step for our company because we are not founded. We are focusing on founding, but we are not founded yet. So we decided to just make a decision to start with one state and to focus on that state. And we decided to start up Mokadox Incorporated in Smyrna, Atlanta, Georgia. And we will launch our platform on January 1st, 2020, and we'll be in business at that point. So in 2020 we'll be starting focusing on the English language, the US market, in the state of Georgia.
So actually there is, like, in comparison, for example, to Facebook, it's a bit less scalable in the sense that there's this language barrier a bit, and there's, I guess, specificalities of each country's contracts, right? Is it true? Like, because things like Facebook, I guess, indeed languages also, you need to translate everything. But there's, like, indeed you can't spread all over the world because there are these small specificalities and you need to adapt it to each market, right?
Yeah, but Facebook is also based upon consumers, not on business. Mm-hmm. So it's I wouldn't say it is easier for companies to roll out to consumers, although it is. You can see it with Instagram, you can see it with all kinds of apps, games. It's easier to reach consumers than to reach customers as we do, prospects as companies. It's a different approach. And so to roll out as a SaaS company in a B2B environment takes a different approach than to roll out a solution in a B2C environment.
Before we were discussing time to time that your company is a SaaS-based business and everybody would think that like 90+% are developers, or maybe less, but the rest is service. As far as I know, actually, it goes more towards being a content creation company, and I think I also mentioned that before. Can you also elaborate more on that? How do you see your company? Is it a more developer company or more content creation marketing company?
Well, it's today it's different than the day we started. So we're now more in 50-50 shape where we develop IT and we are content creators. Like marketing, we call ourselves a multimedia company. So we're not a contract management company, we think we are a multimedia company. So we have people working on animations, on podcasts, on websites, landing page, ebooks, case studies, stuff like that. So we do interviews with customers, we create content on the website, not content to sell our solution. We don't care if, we do care if we have customers, but we don't want to push them to become a customer. We want them to convince themselves to think that we have the best solution for their problem. If that's the case, we can help them and we'll have happy customers. And with happy customers, you can create content like ebooks, case studies, and all those stuff. So we were focused in the starting days of our company how to conquer the world from the internet point of view. And that's not going to be the software, it's going to be the message. How do you provide the message to the rest of the world? Today, we are building more platforms than just a platform contract management. We are building contract initiation, we are building contract performance, we are building contract creation, we are building an app, we are creating Mokadox Academy. So we need to have development. So we see our development department is growing. But still the main focus of our company is to spread the word. Just how to spread the word is via the internet, and it's not going to be tech talk, it's going to be business talk. Logic business talk, like how do you want to manage your contract on an end date? That's not a technical question, that's an operational question.
So would you say around 80% then of the companies, you would not call it advertisement, but sort of in the field of advertising marketing is content creation, right?
Yeah.
And the rest is some other tools.
Yeah, there's not going to be advertisement is a small part of it. So we have the ability to reach out to our prospects without an ad. So we can do it in different ways. And so it's thinking more about how can we achieve results without paying for an advertisement. Google Ads is easy. You put $10 in, you have an advertisement. They click, your money is gone. And the question is, do you have a customer? So we focus on what we call free marketing tactics. There are a lot of free marketing tactics out there. And the only thing you need to do is to invest upfront a lot of money and hours and resources to achieve kind of results. Like if we build a podcast, it takes a lot of man-hour, it's editing, it's filming, it's a studio, it's cameras, it's a lot of stuff for only 2 minutes or 3 minutes of video. But once the video is done, it's done. And they can play 1 million times those same video. So we create content where people can click whenever they like, whenever they need it. And we provide them with that information in a certain flow. So we don't just push it. We have we help them in their buying cycle. So at the right moment, at the right time, they receive the right podcast with the right content.
Okay, you're sending it out.
We're sending it out, yeah, but only to the people. For instance, if we know it's a policeman, we will send out a podcast related to contract management in a police squad. Mm-hmm. So we will send out content, but context-driven content.
Even through, we know that it's a SaaS-based business, and it's kind of describes largely the business model. So I guess the biggest revenue source is the monthly subscriptions, right?
The only business we have is the monthly recurring revenue fees. So our customer support is free.
Do you ever speak about competition, your uniqueness, specialization? Are there solutions which are, similar or tackle similar problem?
Yeah, well, we have a business plan, and in the business plan there are 145 companies all across the world related to contract management. So we did a lot of investigations about the software tools out there, and we ended up with 3 companies who have a similar approach, but one of them has the focus we have, and that's us. So there's not a company. Well, you can compare the problems are the same, but the solutions might tackle the problem, but that's still the question if that's the case. And then the question is, are these companies all SaaS companies? Mm-hmm. And that's not the situation as well. So a lot of companies are still in on-premise software, especially large enterprise. They're changing that's true. It is changing, but to change from a old-fashioned business model to a new fashion business model is not easy for those companies. So they can run into deep problems with that. There are also new kids on the blocks. Those new kids on the block will launch new solutions, but what we see is that those people are mostly technical driven, so they don't have the operational discussion related to contract management. They think, oh, I can build a solution where we manage an end date, but it's much more than that. Mm-hmm. And so we see those companies launching their solution, and in 3 years down the road they are gone. So that's basically the life cycle of those companies. And at this point, we are the fastest growing contract management vendor in Europe. And we are conquering the Netherlands quite quick, quite big. We have big companies here, government, cities, in the e-commerce, in industry, automotive, healthcare, in education, and they all knock on our door. So we don't push them to become a customer. They knock on our door to want to become a customer, and that's what we will do in the US as well. And in the US, there's a different competition, more focused on the US. So I think we will have more issues in acquiring new customers in the US than we have in the Netherlands.
Why? Because of the specificalities?
Well, the most important part is that the US companies are mainly already equipped by the fact that they want to deliver their solution through the entire United States, and we are focusing first on one state. So we really want to better understand how can we acquire customers and what is the process we need to follow before we will dive into more states of the US.
You mentioned before business plan,
Yeah.
and I remember that you rewrite time to time what's in it, and I had never heard it before. Why do you do that?
Because I want to have it accurate. So it needs to be. To be honest, at the moment it's not accurate because there's a lot of movement inside the organization because we had a transfer from a different location to here. A lot of things happened, a lot of projects popped up. So I need to rewrite the business plan. I'm going to do it during my holidays. It's not a lot of work because a lot of stuff is already in, but it gives me guidance and it gives me focus that I don't need to change my focus over and over again. We still have the same focus as in 2013. It's not a different focus, but the way to achieve the results, to achieve your focus, might change during the business is changing and the world is changing every day. So you need to have a dynamic business plan, not a static business plan.
What do you see generally as a SaaS, like as a kind of business model? What do you see the future of it? Is it gonna grow, or there's something gonna come one day replace it? What do you see about that?
I think the internet is not only SaaS business, software as a service, but I think the internet is still in a very early stage. We tend to think that it's already huge, and it is huge from our perspective, but I think it's really in a very early stage. You know, we have more and more the ability to put on the lights with an app, or the music with an app, and I think there's going to be a lot of items which will be connected to the internet. And contract management, for instance, if we look at contract management as our point of view, we still see people printing out contracts, signing with real ink, scan it in again, and send it back, not via the mailman anymore, but via email. But it's still silly that it happens that way. And so we want to change that entire environment. So we want to, and people still using Word to make a contract, which is also silly because Word is a text editor which is invented in 1976. So it's now 2019, so it means it needs to be done differently. So we found an approach that we can create contracts without a text editor. And that means that we will change that part of contract management anyway. So, and we only can do that if there's an internet. So it's just in the starting phase, the internet. Because if we can create something brand new from something which is done ages already, because contracts are signed already ages, not centuries. So the internet is still changing the way we think, the way we work, the way we buy, the way we act, everything. It changes everything, including the way we work. There's not only eating in the living room, there's also guys eating in the working place. This is one of the working places. So people just select wherever they want to sit down, plug in their laptops and start working. It might be marketing, it might be related to website development or podcasts or back-end development or front-end development. And then we have also what we call a quiet place. People work here as well. This is one of the working places as well where you can work as a back-end developer, front-end developer, or marketeer, or whatever your role is. Then we have a whiteboard, which is basically the screen between those two rooms. And you can see here as well, we don't have really desks. We only have tables and chairs. That's what we have, and screens.
What was the hardest thing or the biggest obstacle during the development of Mokadocs?
Biggest issue I had was to find the first customer, and because we don't chase for customers, so the first customer who came in was exactly what we wanted. That was after 9 months when we went live, and I didn't know if I wanted to cry or laugh because the revenue was so poor. So I invested a lot of money to found Mokadocs, and the first deal was 39 euros a month. I cannot live from 39 euros a month, and it was only in the 9th month, and it was my first customer, and so I was happy. And at the same time, I thought, I came from multi-million-dollar deals business in the US, and my first deal was 39 euros. So I think that was the biggest issue in my head. At the same time, I knew that I need to find more 39 euro deals. And that's where we are today, because now it's a sustainable business. It's growing 30 to 60% a year, every year. And if we push more, if we can invest more, it's going to be growing quicker. But this was the biggest issue I had.
And I believe you already had employees back then.
We had a small team, very small team, 2 people, number 1 and number 2. I was number 2. And in the second year, that was in the first year, so it was in September. Although we won in October in the same year, in 2013, a prize in the US, in Boston. And the prize, the basics behind the prize is that they said, well, we will be the new kid on the block in contract management for the next 10 years, so we will be a differentiator. And that's true. We are changing the world of contract management today, and it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. In the second year, we hired the third guy in the company.
So then actually, I didn't ask before, but I guess it was fully funded by you in the very beginning.
Yeah. We don't have external investors. So
at the moment as well?
No, we don't have external investors whatsoever. We mainly focus on the things we do today, and we do it with the money we earn.
Yeah, I guess we can slowly go into the field like for investments. Like, how do you see the environment of investments, general funding in the Netherlands and in the world?
Well, a good question as well. We had last year in 2018, we had the investment year. So we wanted to see if we could get investment. The answer is yes, we can have investment, more than we thought in the Netherlands, but we didn't want to have it. The investor companies in the Netherlands are mainly focusing on short-term revenues. They want to sell as quick as possible the company again, and that's not our goal. Our goal is totally different from what the venture capital companies in the Netherlands want to achieve. So we decided not moving forward anymore with Dutch investors, and we will probably chase for investors in the US. They have deeper pockets, they better understand the SaaS model, they better understand that you don't provide only the Netherlands with a cloud solution, but the world is much bigger. You can see it with Netflix, you can see it with Facebook, you can see it with Google, with Microsoft. They understand the SaaS model much better than the Dutch VCs. The Dutch VCs, in my opinion, and I know I'm generalizing, so that's not true for everyone. But in the big picture, what we saw is they want to have a quick run in achievement within revenue. They want to double or triple or whatever, and they don't care about the company. And we care about the company. We care about our customers. We care about our employees. So we don't want to step into that trap.
I remember this interview with there's this internet bank Revolut in UK, and its founder said, if I would be given now like this big amount, I would not know what to do with it, and the money itself will not like accelerate the business, people will. So is there like such an amount where if you have it, it's already will not really accelerate anymore?
Yeah, well, you know, I think if we would have the first round over 5 million, it would be too big. So it's true. Mm-hmm. We could say, oh, we want to have 100 million, and what? Then you have 100 million in the bank, and you cannot do anything with it. Doesn't make sense. So the first round should be about 5 million, and then we know exactly what to do, how to accelerate the existing business, to measure what happens with the existing business to go to the second round. And the second round might be 20 million, because then you have the metrics in, you know exactly what to do, or you tend to know exactly what to do because you might make mistakes. But then it's more logical then to go to a second phase in investments of 20, and then it might be 50, and then it might be 80. So it doesn't make sense to have too much money up front. But in the Netherlands, it's not talking about 5 million, it's talking about 500K or 1 million K. And they do understand the business, but they want to have quicker money in return, which I do understand, but it's not our model. So it's true. Too much money doesn't bring the job, and too less money neither.
You're already being sort of in one foot in the US market. How do you see, what do you see the differences between maybe Netherlands or maybe partially even Europe and the US market? And the way of making the business?
Yeah, well, that's going to be different. But basically, the stakeholders, the people we give the message how you can better manage contracts is the same, because they have the same issues. The US guys have the same issues as the Dutch guys. It doesn't make that much different. But the market is different. Here in Europe, we have customers who have, let's say, 15,000% return on investment. That means every single dollar which is invested in Mokadocs multiplies by 150. It's a lot of money if you invest in managing your contracts and have a return on that investment. That's great. For the US market, that's huge. You know, if we spread the word that every single dollar you invest in Mokadocs will give you $150 back, that's great information, and the American market will embrace that and say, okay, where can I sign? You know, we need to do this. The Dutch market doesn't care about the return on investment. That sounds silly, because basically everything we do comes down to bottom line revenue. And so, but in the Netherlands and also in Europe, there are different forces to make decisions on software. It's a different culture. So they don't even want to have the proof of the return on investment. They want to have different reasons to sign up a contract. They need to feel good, or they need to do the check boxes, or it's different. But the moment you start in the US telling them what the return on investment can be in their market, the rest is less relevant.
And what about doing the business? So I think you already said at the very beginning that it's very similar.
Well, to close the deal is very similar. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And the rest, like yeah.
Well, support as well. You know, I think the US market is more related to the word convenience. So your customers want to treat it and to be helped in a very convenient manner. In the Netherlands, so if we offer, for instance, to implement all the contracts, to read those and to put them in, the Dutch people would say, well, we can do it ourselves, and because it's cheaper. Well, that might be true. It might not be true. It's depending on who's going to read those contracts. Because if you put the wrong information in, the wrong information will come out. So it's very important to put in the right information. But it's mainly driven on finance. At the same time, it's good that they do it themselves, because if they read their contracts again, it's putting the information in their head, so they can make decisions while implementing contracts into their systems. So there will be a return on investments already when you implement contracts themselves. So we tell them to do it themselves. So we don't want to earn money from implementations. The Americans do it differently. They want to have a fully operated system. That's it, period. We're in the middle of decorating and redecorating this stuff. But this is the place where we will build a sports bar based upon US standards, a US standard sports bar. We wanted to create an environment where people can sit and work, but also can game and play. So we have, for instance, billiard or we have darts. But we also will create a VR reality, the virtual reality room, where you can play with virtual reality. We are in the middle of buying some pinball machines or arcade machines where you can play games. But it's also based upon the fact that you can sit down and just work, you know, or chill, or talk, or discuss, or whatever you want to do. Sports bar means also that you will have the ability to make your body better in shape. So we will buy also sport equipment.
Can you talk again about the culture and your vision of this kind of new way, especially here of the payroll?
Yeah, basically everything comes down to the same part. That is that the way we work, the way we think, the way we shop, the way we live has been changed over the last 20 years. The internet gives us the ability to work wherever we are, even in a plane across an ocean. So knowing that brought us to the idea that we want to conquer the world from just one point of view. So we don't, from one spot, one geographical spot. We don't want to travel to help customers. And that's what we still do. At the same time, if the way we work, live, think, shop has been changed, that means that we need to change internally as well. I always have been worked for companies, not always, but I mainly have been working for companies which say they need you at 9 at the office and then you can leave at 5. For me, it doesn't make sense because if I'm creative, if I'm a creative guy and I maximize my value at 7 p.m., working from 9 to 5 doesn't make sense for me. So customers tend to work from 9 to 5. So there is always an interaction going on between customers and a company. So they always need something in place between 9 and 5. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you need to work from 9 to 5. You can start working at 4 a.m. in the morning and stop at 2. And somebody else starts working at 10 p.m. and ends at 7 p.m. We have people working in the company who start working at night. They cannot sleep. They step into their car, drive to the office and start working here very early in the morning. We have people who don't go to the office at all. They work in the world, so in Montevideo or in South Korea or in the Philippines. So what we said is that the employees, the Mokadox employees, are the most important value asset we have. And that means that they are the number one. The number two player is the customers we have. So if we would not have customers, there's no need to have employees. So those people are important as well. But to serve those people, you need to have very motivated employees. So that's why we said, well, if we really want to motivate employees, they need to be on the number one spot. And that means that they can come whenever they like, they can go whenever they like, they can eat at the office, they can sleep at the office, they can work at the office, they can chill at the office, they can do anything at the office which they normally do in life. That's the balance between working and living. At the same time, you have an obligation as an employee to deliver. So you need to deliver something to the organization you work for. And the organization delivers to you, for instance, a salary, but also the flexibility and the freedom. So we decided to put the employee on the number one spot, but not in wording, but in actual life. So nobody has a break. They can take a break. They break themselves. So there's not a 9 or a 10 to 10:15 break. We don't have those. That means that the culture of our company is very informal because it is the balance between private and business life. That's what happens here. I do understand why we have a minimum wage in the Netherlands, but we struggle from the minimum wage. We don't like the minimum wage. We would like to pay employees what they deserve. And if an employee doesn't perform, why should you pay a minimum wage? And at the same time, you could say, well, it's important to have a minimum wage so that somebody can pay the mortgages or the food they have. So I do understand the minimum wage. But we as a company, and I'm not talking just about myself as part of the management team, but also the employees in the organization have the same idea, that they want to be paid for the value they deliver to the organization. So if we take a closer look at the average wage of, for instance, a marketeer, you can see that people who start working for a company and will want to have a paid job, they probably will dive into the average payments. And we said, well, if we want to achieve much better result than our competition, then we need to achieve a result above average. If that's the case, we need to pay above average as well, but only based upon result. Because if people don't deliver a result above average, the company won't perform above average. So what we did, we said, well, the minimum wage is great. Let's take that as a step, and everybody receive a minimum wage. So we all have a salary of a minimum wage. And on top of that, you can receive, it's not bonus, it's a kind of step where you can classify a better result based upon, for instance, the last 6 months of your performance. And that's the way how you can earn a much better salary as the average wage. Which brings me back to the idea that we said, if, for instance, if the minimum wage is 11 euros an hour and the average income of a marketeer is 16 euros an hour, there's a difference between 11 and 16 is 5. So we said we put a 5 on top of the 16. That means that this guy or girl can earn 21. If we wouldn't have the minimum wage, then the step would be 16. And then we could put 16 on top of it. That's going to be 32. That's much better. So the minimum wage in our perspective within our company is not helping us. It would be better to not have the minimum wage. But I do understand that there needs to be a minimum wage in the organization or in the Netherlands, because not every employer thinks the way we think.
What is your view on like the education? Like, for example, when you hire people, do you look for specific education or you look more at the skills? Like, for example, Google, especially in the past, they would only hire people with higher education. Now it kind of changes, but what is your view on that?
We only hire people with higher education. Yeah, but that's not enough. So, and it doesn't necessarily need to be higher education. It needs to be a certain mindset, a certain intellect, a certain talent, a certain vision. So it's more than just the higher qualifications. But if I take a generic look at our employees, I would say 95% has a higher education. But that doesn't mean that the 5% who doesn't is less good. That's not the case. So it is, well, every hire is a hire itself. So it's depending on the people you're talking to. So we always look at the talents they have, the things they want to achieve, and what we see if they have a higher education, most of the times it's aligned with ambition. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a lower education that you don't have an ambition. So there are a lot of checks which needs to be filled in before you really can join the team.
Like, if some kind of maybe student or any person actually would like to start a SaaS business, what would you suggest him? What would he need to have some field of expertise? Maybe not even specifically in the contracts, but generally, is there something specific you would suggest him or her in the field of such a business like SaaS?
Long breath. You need to have a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money, but you need to survive. You need to have your food on the table. You need to survive. So, second of all, ambition, drive, and can-do mentality. You need to have the ability to walk the extra mile. And if you have all those ideas, then you need to also you need to address an issue, a problem. If you don't address a problem or an issue, but it might be also lifestyle. Dus if it's going to be B2C, I'm more in the B2B, but if it's going to be B2C, it might be lifestyle or something which is funny or but the most important part is that you need to have the mentality to become successful.
What do you put into that?
What do you put into that?
Into the mentality of becoming successful.
Well, either you have it or you don't. You cannot. I cannot change the mentality of people. People need to change it themselves if they want to achieve a result. So introspective is very important. Know that you might fail. Know that a mistake will help you in achieving a better result the next time. So don't give up. So there are a lot of things which are in place which helps. I mentioned you earlier today the conversation about those new companies starting contract management and disappear after 3 years. They give up. We didn't. I could give up as well because my first deal was in 9 months. So I needed to wait 9 months before the first deal. If I would give up, I would not have the company it is right now. So, but at the same time, if you don't have the money anymore, if you don't have the bread, you need to feed yourself. So it's not only a decision of your mental situation, but also about the content of your fridge. If your fridge is empty, you need to make decisions.
Would you say that, because before you mentioned those companies were mainly very technical driven by technical people, would you say in the field of SaaS is being a technical founder more important than being a founder with a lot of knowledge in the field? What is your view on that?
I think it's both.
Both?
It's both. It's not only, if you don't have the technical background, you probably won't succeed because you will make a lot of mistakes within your technical parts. And if you don't have a field background and you just dive in, you might be lucky. But luck is not the reason why you will be successful. Luck is one of the parts why you want to be successful. But there's more than just luck. So it's both. You need to know your audience. It's very important.
There's this famous Peter Thiel, this venture capital from US. He has this quote. He had this book. Forgot his name. It was from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 0. But it basically sounded. What is it's his question he asks to many people, and specifically in my case, it's in the field of business to you. What is the one thing you know is right or true, which is not known by regular people?
What is the one thing?
Which you know that is true, but is not known by regular people.
What is the one thing which is true, which is not known by regular people? Well, what I know what is true is that people in organizations, and this is my domain, need to start managing their contracts, and they don't need to start working with Mokadocs. It's not a Mokadocs question. It's a question of, do you take your business seriously or not? So, do you take your agreements with your customers or your suppliers or your employees, do you take them seriously? If not, just start working the way you did. If you take them seriously, start managing their contracts. And we know for a fact that a lot of companies, really a lot of companies, don't manage contracts on an end date at all. They don't know where those contracts are, so they are spread all over the organizations, and if they need them, they cannot find them, so there's a lot of frustration. So I know that they need to do that, and they don't know. And that's funny, because they should know, because they are opening a champagne bottle when they sign it. So they know, but they don't know.
Is there something for you, because my questions are done, something from you specifically, maybe you're looking for something like, I don't know, specific kind of employees or I'm not sure you're going to find investors through our network, but you never know.
We'll never know.
So if you have something to say on your own.
No, well, we're always looking for good employees. That's true. No, I don't have a specific message. The only message I have is, but there's more from an entrepreneurial point of view, is that you should not give up. You should learn from your mistakes, and if you learn from your mistakes, you will become a better me. And the more mistakes you make, the better you become. So don't give up.
The last question, it's our classical question. I'm pretty sure it's true, but I'll still ask it. We ask it for everybody. Can you get a Porsche by doing this?
Yeah, I can, but I don't. I don't want to. I don't have a focus to drive a Porsche. I would like to drive a car because it helps me to get from A to B without using the transportation system. So I decide when I leave and not the bushalteblokje when they say it will appear but it is not there. But I don't need a Porsche for that. So no, I don't have the ambition to drive a very expensive car.